let's take a look as we look at the 60-minute chart of the S&P 500. And you can see the gray area, which is the overnight trading, and the white area, which is the trading during the day. And you can just look over on the right there, and you could see what Friday looks like. Man, there's big liftoff going right here, which is the rescue day for the week. You can see where we started the week right over here, so we're actually still down just a tiny little bit. Not much change really when you see that for the week. Monday, which brought back Merger Monday, lifted stocks overnight, and that merger between MPC, that's Marathon and Andover, and T-Mobile and Sprint, well, it's some buying coming in there. But then you could see there was some news that came out. Israel closed their airspace at the Syrian border over after the weekend bombings when 11 Iranians were killed, and Iran had threatened retaliation. So that got the market nervous at that point, and selling did come in. It was a pretty good sell-off. News came out about factory prices being the strongest in 7 years, and bonds were down about 3/4 of a point. That sold the market off in here, but then we got a rebound as they were anticipating Apple's earnings. Apple's earnings came out, as we said, all that news was good, but not a lot happened in here, and everybody was waiting for the FOMC. ADP came out at 204,000 gain, a little better than expected. Then the FOMC meeting came out, and they did nothing. They said labor market continues to strengthen, and still planning on steadily raising rates. Well, you could see we got a little bit of an uptick right there, and then it got sold off very hard. That is different than the way we normally see things acting. Tesla comes out with that record loss and that nightmarish conference call. And then the news came out that U.S. trade talks, well, China took a very hard line, and that worried investors over here. And we got a big sell-off here on Thursday morning. And then, like, I don't know, did President Trump want to stop it? He comes out and praised Xi, and that said, well, maybe we're not going to have a lot of problems in here, and the market completely reversed. And we had NASDAQ like go from down 100 to up over 100. It was just a giant move that we had in there. And ISM news came out, and that kind of upset the market in the morning, that input costs were rising for manufacturers. We saw Fluor have a nightmarish earnings report. That has to be part of that. Here we are overnight on Friday. We saw China trade talks. They had tiny little agreements, nothing. They're trying to put some news out there that isn't horrible, but mostly they're stalemated. They are actually so far apart. You could drive a fleet of trucks through them, through the problems that they're having on this trade thing. And I don't know, at some point, you know, sooner rather than later, we're going to start hearing the threats from Donald Trump about what kind of tariffs are coming. In the meantime, payrolls missed by a little bit in here. We had the U3 come out at 3.9%. Got investors a little nervous right after that news. Wage growth 2.6%, so that's holding at a pretty strong, a much stronger rate than it was. And look at this stock market here, as it just absolutely has this massive move, not giving any ground at all. And you could see that looks incredibly strong. So that is a look at what happened during the week. You could see that the market basically was, you know, very weak completely until Friday. And then we had this, well, big burst that's going on the upside here today. If you're a Thinkorswim user, we're going to show you our charts coming up in here. And TD Ameritrade is our preferred broker. And if you would like to get what we call Slim's charts, that's our level 4, and all of our rankings and trade setups, which is our level 3, and all of our videos, which is our level 2, and the new coming stock index report, which we're in beta test on right now, you can have all of that for 1 month on a trial for $64.50. That's half price. And I think that you'll love all of our content. So please do write an email to me, slim@askslim.com, and then I will send you a special link for that half price trial. Stock market. Okay, so stock market is roaring here. S&P's up 37 points in the future, 40 points in the cash as we get into just the last hour of the day right now. And this is just a huge uptick. That we have some numbers that we're looking at that, you know, basically only change the short term look at the market, and it doesn't do anything to the intermediate pattern, which says that, well, it's fairly likely that we have problems into May, June. And this rally is just all completely within the range that we were looking at, but there is something interesting going on right now, and that is the pattern that we were looking at called for further decline out over here, and you can see this period of risk right there. Now, if you look at this this cycle bracket right over here, that's kind of a light purple one right there. We were looking at that one and this low that it made almost perfectly spot on. But we left this gray one in right over here because that one had a lot of dominance in the past, and you could see that it came down exactly at that timing and then turned up. And now the fact that we're getting up here back into this resistance zone and threatening that high at 2683 gives a lot of credence to that bottom. What that does is it shifts things out a little bit, but doesn't change them very much, because if I highlight this bracket right over here, you could see that ends on June 10th. So what that would do would be to, and you can see this gray area period of risk we have written there, that would then follow this pattern up over here. It would then roll over and then decline over there. So that's looking like the dominant pattern that we're looking at right now. It's a little different than we expected or shifted out in the last, just on Friday actually, but it doesn't really change anything on the big picture. You'll note that VTL right there, that's that dashed line, valid trend line, that's about to break out, and the NASDAQ did so today. So the NASDAQ is much better, and the Russell is losing a little bit of strength. Again, we give you a real good description of this on the stock index report, on how all of these different time frames play together. So what we're going to look for in the next week is that it's likely, based on the fact that it got way up here, to follow this pattern. In other words, get up here, get up to this area around 2700 to 2710, and then roll over there. That 2682 number or so really confirms it right over here, and I think it's a pretty strong likelihood that it's going to do that. So again, our target's going to be 2700 to 2709, and then rolling over after that. And that doesn't change anything on the longer term pattern. You just have a really good updated A. And I'll just be revising these a little bit for our members when they get this chart. And then it will show up on the next time we update on this Thursday on the stock index report. All the momentum figures will probably update a little sooner than that. So that's a look at the short-term view. We're going to look for the stock market to rally a little bit more, get up to 2700, 2709 in that area, and then roll over from that level. It's not very far, but you know, it is 30 or 40 more points potential on the upside in the S&P 500.